He was the golden boy of the Jedi Order, a brilliant, fiercely loyal knight who chose to walk directly into the jaws of the dark side on a desperate undercover mission to save the Republic. Instead, the dark side broke his mind, transforming him into a ruthless warlord and drove him to commit the ultimate unforgivable atrocity, murdering his own brother in cold blood. Greetings, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf Herders, and welcome back to the Infernal Brotherhood. Ulic Qel-Droma wasn't a villain who craved galactic domination for the sake of cruelty. He was an arrogant, deeply passionate warrior whose path to absolute hell was entirely paved with good intentions. From the battlefields of Androu to a cold, deafening spiritual exile, this is the complete chronicle of the Jedi who fell further than anyone else and paid the ultimate price to crawl back. Long before his name became a curse whispered across the stars, Ulic Qel-Droma was the star pupil of the legendary Arcanian Jedi Master Arca-Jeth. Training alongside his young brother Kay and the Twi'lek Jedi taught Danita, Ulic was an absolute force of nature. He possessed a raw, blinding talent with a lightsaber and an unshakable sense of justice. But beneath his heroic exterior lay a dangerous, systemic flaw, a searing, impatient arrogance. Ulic didn't just want to serve the light, he wanted to prove he was the absolute best at it. When Master Arca-Jeth appointed Ulic to lead their first major deployment into the volatile world of Onderon, Ulic viewed it as his grand arrival. He confidently assumed a few young Jedi could easily pacify a localized civil war between a fortified city and primitive outcasts. He had no idea he was walking straight into a multi-generational Sith trap. As we broke down in our last chronicle, the Beast Wars of Onderon completely shattered Ulic's black and white view of the galaxy. He quickly discovered that the planet's ruling monarchy, Queen Aminoa, was completely corrupted by the lingering ancient spirit of Freedon Nad. Onderon became Ulic's crucible. He fought through brutal aerial dogfights against flying Drexels, faced down dark side sorcery, and witnessed his brother Kay's arm get brutally severed by a royal guard. It was also here that he met Nomi Sunrider, a young Jedi widow with a profound gift for battle meditation. The bond between them was instant, deep, and intensely passionate. Together with Master Arca-Jeth, they successfully purged the Nadist cult and brought peace to Iziz. But just as Ulic tasted absolute victory, the shadows of the Old Republic shifted, dealing him a psychological blow from which he would never recover. The defeat of the Nadists triggered a violent ripple across the galaxy, sparking the rise of the Krath, a wealthy dark side-worshipping cult spearheaded by the aristocratic Cato cousins in the Empress Teta system. During a chaotic battle to contain the Krath uprising, a surprising dark side ambush claimed the life of Ulic's beloved mentor, Arca-Jeth. The loss completely unhinged Ulic. Consumed by an agonizing mixture of grief, rage, and guilt, he blamed himself for his master's death. In a massive Jedi convocation on Daniba, Ulic proposed a reckless, incredibly dangerous counter-strategy. He would deliberately fall to the dark side, infiltrate the Krath secret society, and destroy them completely from within. The senior Jedi Masters were horrified, explicitly warning him that the dark side is not a coat that you can put on and take off at will, but Ulic's hubris blinded him. He believed his will was stronger than the dark side. In 3997 before the Battle of Yavin, Ulic traveled to Empress Teta undercover, but the Krath leaders, Satal and Alimo Cato, were deeply suspicious. To break him, Satal injected Ulic with a highly concentrated, irreversible Sith chemical poison that amplified fear, paranoia, and rage. When Nomi Sunrider led a desperate rescue mission to pull him out of the undercover assignment, the toxin did its horrific work. Believing he was protecting his friends by staying to finish the mission, a chemically altered, enraged Ulic turned his weapon on Nomi, casting her out. Shortly after, Ulic executed Seytal Cato in a fit of dark fury, took Alima as his lover, and seized absolute control of the Krath military machine. Ulic's descent was fully finalized by the arrival of Exar Kun, another fallen Jedi prodigy determined to claim the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith. Kun viewed Ulic as a dangerous rival and launched an attack on the Krath capital. The two titans engaged in a catastrophic, jaw-dropping lightsaber duel. Mid-fight, their ancient Sith amulets suddenly ignited, reacting to one another and projecting a massive manifestation of the long-dead Sith Emperor Mark Aragnos. The ancient spirit commanded them to cease fighting, declaring that together they would rebuild the Golden Age of the Sith. He branded Exar Kun as the Dark Lord and tattooed the golden crest of the Sith onto Ulic's forehead, naming him Kun's primary apprentice. With their alliance forged, Ulic became the Iron Fist of the new Sith Empire. He traveled to the plains of Kuar, where he challenged Mandalore the Indomitable to a brutal one-on-one duel on the backs of flying basilisk war droids. Ulic won the fight, earning the absolute fanatical loyalty of the Mandalorian Crusaders. During an insatiable desire to crush the Republic that had failed his master, Ulic bypassed Exar Kun's cautious strategy and launched a staggering full-scale invasion of the galactic capital itself, Coruscant. It was an audacious, terrifying display of military brilliance, but at the height of the battle, a jealous and fearful Alima Cato betrayed Ulic, ordering the Sith forces to retreat and leaving him entirely surrounded. Ulic was captured by a massive contingent of Jedi and brought before the Galactic Senate to stand trial for treason. Ulic used his trial to mock the Republic, but his execution was halted when Exar Kun marched directly into the Senate chamber, froze the entire assembly using Sith stasis magic, and broke his apprentice free. The war reached its ultimate horrific climax on the holy Jedi library world of Ossus as the Sith forces moved to pillage thousands of years of Jedi artifacts. It was on the burning, fractured surface of Ossus that Ulic's tragedy reached the point of no return. His brother, Ulic Qel-Droma, cornered him. Kay refused to ignite his lightsaber, desperately pleading with Ulic to remember who he was, to remember their mother, and to come home. But Ulic, entirely consumed by the blinding, roaring tempest of the dark side, saw his brother's love as a weakness. He ignited his blade and struck Kay down. As the smoke cleared and Kay died in the dirt, the dark side illusion instantly shattered. The sheer shock of what he had done broke the chemical and spiritual programming of the Sith. Ulic dropped to his knees, cradling his brother's lifeless body, weeping in absolute horror at the monster he had become. It was in this exact moment of vulnerability that Nomi Sunrider found him. Overwhelmed by the utter horror of the fratricide and pushing her powers to their absolute structural limit, Nomi channeled her grief into a forbidden, devastating light side technique. She completely severed Ulic's connection to the Force. The impact was instantaneous and catastrophic. In a single second, the vibrant, cosmic tapestry of the Force was ripped away from Ulic's soul, plunging him into a freezing, deafening spiritual void. He was left completely blind to the energy that had defined his entire existence. Broken, hollowed out, and drowning in remorse, Ulic immediately surrendered to the Republic, giving them the exact tactical coordinates of Exar Kun's secret base on Yavin 4, effectively ending the Great Sith War. Stripped of the Force and universally loathed as a mass murderer, Ulic spent the next decade wandering the galaxy as a ghost. He finally sought out anonymity on the frozen, desolate world of Renvar, wishing only to freeze to death in obscurity, haunted every day by the memory of Kay. But his isolation was interrupted by a young Vima Sunrider, Nami's daughter. Vima didn't see a war criminal. She saw the legendary hero from her mother's old stories, and she begged him to train her in the ways of the Jedi. Despite being completely blind to the Force, Ulic reluctantly agreed. He couldn't teach her how to touch the energy, but he could teach her the deep philosophy, the mental discipline, and the absolute mastery of lightsaber forms. In teaching the child, Ulic finally found the modicum of inner peace, realizing that the light side could be served through wisdom and love, even if he could never feel its embrace. But the galaxy does not easily forgive. A cowardly, opportunistic spacer named Hagen tracked Vima to Renvar, wanting to be immortalized as the man who killed the galaxy's most notorious warlord. Hagen crept up behind Ulic and shot him through the heart with a blaster rifle. Ulic died peacefully in Vima's arms, requesting forgiveness from Nomi Sunrider, who arrived just before his final death. And in his final moments, a miracle occurred. Because his heart was completely pure, and his redemption was absolute, Ulic Qel-Droma's body vanished, fading away into light. The Force had welcomed its lost son home. Ulic Qel-Droma's story is a haunting reminder that the dark side doesn't always recruit through an explicit desire for evil. It traps the brilliant, the passionate, and the brave by twisting their desire to do good into an arrogant belief that they are above the rules. Ulic tried to conquer the dark side from within, and it cost him his master, his brother, his lover, and his very soul. What do you think of Ulic's ultimate fate? Did his quiet redemption on Renvar make up for the absolute devastation he caused during the Great Sith War? Or was his death at the hands of a cowardly spacer too merciful an end? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you to my creator patrons Aaron Hardy and D. Robert Handy, producer patron David Galindo, developer patrons Chris Androu and Sam Ruiz, and all of the YouTube members. Until we convene again, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf Herder, may the Force be with you.